Today we're going to talk about ironing. Two different irons here. This is just your everyday use kind of iron. You probably have this at home already. This is just a Black & Decker. It's the one that we use in my classrooms. Very simple to use. It has different heat settings, a little spray thing for wrinkles, a water filler, and then your steam holes down here. Obviously this is not on. Easy to use, lightweight, pretty nice. Then I upgraded a couple years ago to the Oliso Pro. This is what a lot of quilters love to use. For one, it's pretty heavy, so it irons really well. It has an automatic lift, so you don't even have to set it up. If you do, then those little things will pop out, which help it to sit there. And it's just super handy. Definitely higher in the price range, but worth the investment. The quilting debate is, do you use steam or not? I love to use steam, but I am careful with my fabric. So if you're buying a fabric that has a lower weave to it, this one actually came from a big box store. It's a little less quality fabric. It has more of a stretch, less tightness to it. So I have to be really careful with this kind of fabric. When you're ironing the cheaper end of fabric, you would either use no steam or just be really careful not to be like pulling on your fabric as you're ironing. If you buy good quality quilt fabric, then you're usually okay to use steam and your highest setting. So you're going to set your setting to cotton. Let's see. Starch. I use starch occasionally, but usually it's at the end of my block. When I am finished with a block, I will spray the top of it and starch it so that it's nice and stiff before I quilt it. So that's the only time I use starch. I don't usually use it when I'm getting ready to cut my fabric. If there is a really bad wrinkle in the fabric, I will spritz it lightly with a water bottle and use steam. Just real lightly. You don't need to soak it. Selvage to selvage. Okay, what do I mean by selvage? It's usually the white part of the fabric. This actually doesn't have a white part, but it's the part where they attached the fabric to the machine to dye it or to roll it up on the bolt. And then I'll just spread it out on my ironing board. Now I'm blessed to have a very large ironing board. My husband built this for me. He's very handy and kind to me. And then we just put batting and a piece of fabric and stapled it to the piece of wood. It's sitting on the old ironing board actually, and it's super helpful because I can get really wide fabric on here and iron the whole thing at the same time. So what if you bought 108-inch wide fabric? What do you do then? Well, I like just to keep it folded in half, and I will iron the pieces together. Now you have to feel it a lot, make sure there's no wrinkles under there that you're gonna iron and make it worse, and just avoid that fold for now and get the whole thing ironed. Just scoot it down, iron the whole thing. And then once you're done ironing it, then you can open it up and lay it the other way so that you can hit the seam all at the same time. Okay, pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but some helpful tips so that you can get your ironing done easier, faster, so that you can get back to the sewing part, which is the fun part, right? So there's an awesome product called Iron Off, and I use this occasionally, but I also use a lot of stabilizer and heat and bond on my clients' quilts, so my iron gets that little bits of glue on it occasionally. So what you do is take your iron off, make sure you're in a ventilated area, open your window, even in winter, it's okay, it'll only be for a second, and you're going to empty your iron of all the water, turn off the steam, put a dab of this on an old towel, and then circular motions, just rub it on your towel. Okay, and then you can take a clean part of your towel and wipe off any extra that you see. Just be careful, don't burn yourself. Okay, so that's a tip for cleaning your iron. You may never have to clean your iron if you don't use stabilizer and such, but as you get into more and more quilting, you'll probably start playing with those kind of fabrics too. So speaking of stabilizer, I'm going to show you what I use. And I'm just going to put some on this fabric. Since it's not a high quality fabric, I want it to be a little bit stiffer anyway. So I'm going to spread it out. And you would do this with the right side down. So the wrong side is facing you, okay? Because you want that stabilizer to go on the back of your fabric. So the stabilizer has a smooth side and a bumpy side. That bumpy side are little dots of glue. And we're going to melt that glue onto our fabric. So I just spread it out here like that. And then put the iron on it. You want a really hot iron, and I like using steam. And you have to kind of use a lot of it and just keep pressing on it, pressing on it. Now you don't ever have to really push. Just let the iron do its job. Don't wear yourself out. You can start pushing when you do the rotary cutting. Just let it heat it up, and you'll see those little dots kind of disappear. All right. And then I'll just move it up a little bit. Make sure we don't have any wrinkles under there. Pet your fabric, make sure everything's nice and smooth before you glue that down. Now this will help this fabric to be a lot stiffer since it doesn't have a good weave to it. So that's a trick you can get away with cheaper fabrics, is to use a stabilizer. But then you're paying for both products, so might as well just get good fabric from the get-go. Okay, so that's my tip on stabilizing. I have some half square triangle blocks here, and I'm going to show you how to press those. So we have a light and a dark side. We always want to press towards the dark side. Be like Darth Vader. That's what my son would say. So I'm going to put it right side down, okay? So this is one way you can do it. And then I'll take my iron, hold one piece, and press the other side. Okay, so now the light blue is laying on top of the dark blue, or the teal. You always want to flip it over to the front and make sure that that seam opened up all the way, that you just didn't make another little crease in it. Otherwise your blocks won't come out the right size. Another way to do it is to lay the light side of the fabric down on the table and use your iron to press it open like a clam. And now your light blue is laying on the teal, and you have it all ironed correctly. Occasionally the pattern will call for you to open the seams, and that means that both sides are going to lay on themselves. So you're going to open it all the way up. And then flip it to the front and iron the other side. Okay, so let me show you that again. So I'm going to use my finger to kind of open both sides, give it a little finger press, and then press it. Flip it to the right side and press it again. Make sure it opened up all the way. Okay, that's how you press your blocks. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to talk about how to cut your fabric. See you then.